What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Honor Among Thieves. Your host is always Nelson Rodriguez Jr. coming at you. Director, producer, host. You already know everything under the sun of Honor Among Thieves podcast. Today, have an awesome guest, Mr. Kyle Sandler. You might know him as at Federal Prison Tips on TikTok and everywhere else. One of the bigger guys that's doing federal prison consulting online. Really like his story. He's got a unique story to tell. Very interesting, even from the beginning. Like off rip, he already catches you by surprise. He's an Asian guy who got adopted by Jewish parents. Ends up becoming a massively successful business guy. Was into these scams here and there as a kid, but nothing major. And it all leads up to a $3.5 million scam where he raised millions of dollars, where he initially was only supposed to raise $500,000, but people kept giving him money, and you already know. Slippery slope. Familiar story. Greed gets a hold of him. Things turn out ugly. FBI starts looking for him. He goes on the run. And it's really, really interesting stuff, what happens with him, based out of the Alabama, Texas area. And ultimately, we talk about his redemption story, how he's basically one of the primary guys giving consulting services for federal prison, people going to prison, in prison, things like that. He's got some really cool content that you should check out, and I'll give you all his links at the end of the episode. They'll be in the description as well. So without further ado, Kyle Sandler.
So say goodnight to the bad guy.
You looking at the bad guy. This the last time that you ever see a bad guy like me. You don't have the guts to be who you wanna be.
What's up, Kyle? Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Nelson.
Of course, man. It was cool. It was cool that you reached out. I love your page. I've been following you for a while, so.
I like your podcast. Like I said, you just came up and it was location tagged Miami. I'm like, wait, that's just right down the road.
How we not linked up before? Yeah, it's
exactly. I mean, but you know, the funny thing is there's so many of us ex-felons, rehabilitated felons down here in South Florida.
Yeah, South Florida is like, you know.
It's like the felon capital of the world.
It's a felon retirement home, you know. But yeah, man, it's crazy how this. I never even before I went to prison and got arrested and all that. I never even knew that prison content was a thing.
I didn't either. You know? Before I went to prison, I don't know how you were, but before I went to prison, I was dibbly-dabbling into politics and doing donations and stuff. And in my opinion, everybody that was in prison deserved to be there.
Yeah. I had the same exact. Bro, I couldn't have said it better. I was like some guy. I was just another guy who really didn't know anything about criminal justice or
nothing.
You know, until it happened to me. You know,
and then it happened to me, and I was guilty. So sure, I was supposed to be there, but I didn't know how bad it was going to be. And what it was going to feel like, and you know, and then we meet some legit people that probably shouldn't be in prison while you're in prison.
Yep. Yeah, and even people who do deserve to be in there maybe got punished a little too much. You know, like
for sure.
It's interesting to go in there and see all these different. That's what inspired me ultimately to do this. Like I was already podcasting before I went to prison, but it was more like I didn't know what direction I wanted to take it. Honestly,
current events and all.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. And then I went to prison and I said, man, there's no way I have to make an effort to like bring these stories to people. You know.
People don't, and they love it. Like the numbers on, we were talking about this in the elevator. It's like there's so many, the biggest podcasts on, when you look at the Apple and all that stuff, the biggest podcasts are true crime. And most of the true crime podcast genre is not people that have ever done crime.
It's wild when you think about it, really. Like if, and the crazy thing is, I don't know how nobody questioned that before. Like, that guy's never been arrested. Why
is he doing it?
You know? And now it's like there's a good group of us now. You know, you got Ian, you, Matt, me. It's cool. And different perspectives, different stories, you know?
I mean, like, I don't know what the deal is with Vitaly, but, like, he's not one of us.
Yeah, even though he's got an interesting thing going on with the whole Vlad TV thing. But, yeah, it's cool and people like to watch it, but I think it's better when it's like, all right.
When it's authentic.
You know? Definitely. Authenticity is big with content today. If you're not authentic, I don't think people like it.
Right.
You know? That's why TikTok's huge, right? Because it's just like a dude in front of a phone.
And it's right. It's at the minute. It's like, yeah, I'm ruffling some feathers of the legacy guys in my space because they're all old and don't know how to use technology, right. And I'm beating them to the punch on everything. It's just because I hear something and 5 minutes later I can have it to beam to the world.
Right. It's like instant, just instant connection.
Yep.
To people. So Kyle, I'm really excited to get into your story. I love the T-shirt. Straight out of prison.
Straight out of prison. I actually got in a TikTok shop.
That's cool. Yeah, I gotta get one of those. So let's start at the beginning, man. Where you from? How'd you grow up?
I was adopted into a white Jewish family in Baltimore, Maryland.
Oh wow, okay.
At birth, so I was raised Jewish, but I went to Catholic school. That's a whole different story. But on and off, I was always either the entrepreneurial kid or the kid that was getting into some shit.
Into some trouble. Yeah.
I was selling the candy and stuff out of my locker and undercutting the school store and then selling the answers to the tests and changing report cards, all that kind of stuff. I started, my first career was in radio. I was a top 40 DJ for almost 20 years.
Okay.
I don't look it, but I'll be 50 next year.
Wow, you look great for your age.
A lot of people say that. I was born in 75.
Wow.
So I had a whole career before this. I was all over the East Coast doing radio. And then in 2006, I stopped doing radio because I almost got into big federal trouble for something called payola. And while they were going after all my friends, I was like, oh, time to dip out so I don't go to federal prison. And
payola was federally illegal? I didn't know that.
No, yeah, it is federally illegal to play on the radio. And
wow.
Elliot Spitzer, who was at the time, I believe he was the U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York, was coming after all these radio DJs and music directors and program directors for taking payola.
Interesting.
And some of my friends in the industry, they got locked up. They didn't end up doing any time like we have. But, they got locked up. Some of them ended up on probation for a long time, stuff like that. And I was scared to death. So I was like, forget this.
Yeah.
I ended up working at T-Mobile and selling phones. And I'm, based on, my crime and my history, I'm good at selling things. So I did real well. And I caught the radar of some of the people that were real high up at T-Mobile. And so I was given in 2006 the prototype of the G1, which was the very first Android phone.
Yeah, I remember that one.
To play with, not to keep. And I got to hold on to it for a week. And I remember I had a little JVC handy cam, and I made a video of it. And then I went and got a free blog on Blogger. And this is 2006, and I started a website called The Droid Guy because I knew it was going to be called Android. And it was thedroidguy.blogger.com. And then a year later, when the G1 actually came out, I converted it to thedroidguy.com. So I had started the very first ever Android blog in the world. Now there's like 5,000 of them. I kept that going and growing and growing and growing. So I sold it for $10 million in 2011.
Wow.
To a company in Mumbai called Interclick Media for only the assets. And I took that money and I had moved to Alabama to be with my baby's mother. And started another company promoting startups and blogging about startups. And at the same time, this is the abbreviated story. Somewhere around 2012, I had the idea first off, I was the regional champion for something called Startup America, which was a Obama initiative to spur entrepreneurial growth in the flyover states.
Okay. So
in that position, it was a volunteer thing, but I was the coordinator for Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, Georgia, and Florida. And basically it was just like to have little events to promote entrepreneurs that were doing tech bro startups.
Right.
So I became the entrepreneur in residence at the Auburn Business Technology Foundation, which is a technology incubator on the campus of Auburn University. And while I was there, I met a couple guys who were trying to encourage me to break out of the Auburn University world so that we could take some of these startups and make money. So I started a thing called the Roundhouse, which was an incubator, startup space, and accelerator for startups in a town called Opelika, Alabama in 2012. And the reason I chose Opelika is it's right next to Auburn. It's like the equivalent of like Aventura in Miami. It's right there. But the difference was Opelika was one of the first 6 cities in the whole country to have 1 gigabit symmetrical internet back in 2012. That was super fast. That was like, you think about it and it pops up on your screen. So, and the reason they had it was because they just converted their electric grid and the pipeline was 1 gigabit so that you don't have to send a meter reader out anymore. So they said, hell, let's start giving the internet out to the residents or letting them buy it or rent it or whatever. So we opened up a shop in Opelika at an old converted Woolworths. The real estate was dirt cheap. And I started doing what I was supposed to do. So we offered co-working. We had a studio very similar to where we're at right now, where people could, do podcasts or create videos.
Back in 2012?
Back in 2012 and 13.
Wow. Okay.
And we were doing startup growth, like, websites, web design, JavaScript writing, all kinds of stuff for a bunch of different companies. And we had about 30 different companies that we were helping grow. And I opened up a venture fund to back these startups. I was originally only going to raise $500,000 to invest in the startups. And if they popped, then everybody would make money.
Right.
So when we got to $500,001, I was supposed to stop raising the money. But I didn't because everybody wanted to invest. And we were the epicenter of everything in that whole region.
Right.
Auburn, Opelika, Montgomery. Everybody knew what we were doing. And everybody wanted to be involved. It was a very lively Google-esque environment with video games and a free snack bar 24 hours a day.
You guys were like the Silicon Valley of the South.
Right. And it was like nothing you'd ever seen in a sleepy little railroad town. And so there was all this excitement. And I got to that $500,000 and first dollar, and somebody was like, I really want to put $30,000 in. So at this point in time, if I take that money, I no longer hold the lion's share of the equity. But I took the money, and I no longer held the lion's share of the equity. And then I took more money and more money and more money to the point that I didn't have any more equity. I had zero. And then at the same time, we were working with the startup that was founded by a teenager in the town. His name was Taylor Rosenthal, and the startup was called RecMed. And I met him through the Young Entrepreneurs Academy, which was a thing at the middle school in town. It's a national thing. And he won with an idea to sit outside basically of sporting events like big soccer tournaments and stuff and sell first aid kits in a tent, like a pop-up tent. And we worked with him through his winter break and said, you know what? I didn't tell a kid this was stupid, but like there's a much better way to deliver this merchandise,
right?
A vending machine. So we reached out to, I don't remember the guy's last name, but his first name is Greg, who created the Eco ATM. And, Greg would jump on the phone with us for phone calls. And finally, 6 months later, we have a prototype of a vending machine that sells Band-Aids that a 13-year-old little white kid from Opelika, Alabama created. We got major play on that, and it's still all over the internet. I took him to CES, which is a consumer electronics show in Las Vegas, and he won Startup of the Year at 13 from Alabama. That spurred him being on Stuart Varney on Fox Business. Stuart Varney, then the next day we're on CNN, CNBC, Fox and Friends.
Back when those were a really big deal.
Right. All over the TV. This is like 2015 now. And because of all this excitement, everybody wanted to keep giving us money, and I kept taking the money. I mean, I really needed to stop at $500,001. So from $500,001 to $1 million, I still hadn't done anything illegal. I was just no longer an equity holder in my own company.
Right.
But then I just kept going. So now we're at like 200% of equity. So now I'm in illegal territory.
Right.
I've broken the law. I'm not thinking about it. And this isn't, a lot of people don't understand a couple things about what happened with me. I didn't open up the Roundhouse to steal the money. It
became that eventually.
The show that me and Ian Bick did when they pitched it to us was, we want to talk about, young entrepreneurial minds that get going and it falls off the rails, which is the exact same thing that happened with Ian. Ian was having these big parties, Steve Aoki and all these great people.
Right.
And he was young and dumb and didn't know how to manage the money and got in over his head and then just kept going. I mean, I wasn't nearly as young, but I was dumb and I didn't know how to manage the money. And when you've got this spotlight and you're doing these things and people want to give you don't want to tell them no because it's
right.
a bad ego. It's a bad look for your ego. And it's like, oh my God, all these people want to keep giving me money. And so I get to the point where I've raised almost $3 million on half $500,000 raise. And now there's people that are starting to notice around town that there's way too many people in my fund. They're talking to people on the golf course and they're like, how are you in the roundhouse? I thought they were out of equity like a year ago. And so I had this brilliant idea at the time, and this is where it was going to get even worse, but it didn't. I would open up another location. And now in my brain, I'm going to do a Ponzi scheme to get these guys in Opelika out. But so I open up in Mobile, and I double the cost of the equity. I get 3 or 4 guys in, but by then the train's fallen off the tracks,
Right.
and I'm already under investigation by the FBI. And then on I'm in Mobile more than Opelika and Auburn because Mobile's just cooler, and I'm trying to raise the money there to buy these guys in Opelika out to maybe get this thing straightened out.
Right.
But who knows? And so then people are wanting to meet with me and get their money out. Where's my money? Blah, blah, blah. It's coming. Don't worry. We're going to be good. And I'm starting to make stuff up like, I got this big equity coming up and I got this big annuity coming up. Don't worry. Everything's going to be good. So, in 2016, in Thanksgiving, we're 4 years into it. So we're known, we have this big potluck Thanksgiving thing for the whole community, which is also around my birthday. So I come up to Auburn from Mobile for that, and everything's normal, big party. And then I go away with somebody that's not my wife to New York for my birthday, and come back. And on December 6th, I get a target letter from the FBI that they want me to come on December 20th to the field office of the FBI in Mobile so that we can discuss these allegations.
They were nice enough to give you a letter,
I got
boy.
a target letter.
Doesn't happen to a lot of us.
And on December 7th, we left town.
Yeah.
Moved to Texas with my daughter and her mom, and I stayed on the run for 18 months.
At that point, did they issue a warrant out for your arrest as soon as you left town?
As soon as I left town, there was a warrant. I was in Bryan, Texas. I had taken some of the money I stole and bought a ranch out of foreclosure with cash that was literally right next to Chuck Norris's house.
Oh, that's
I never saw Chuck Norris, just his staff. But I got itchy. I was bored. So I started dabbling in startups again under the assumed name that I had. And, then I started just using my regular name because it was like nobody was looking for me. I was on the list. I was wanted, but nobody was looking for me. I paid a lawyer to see if I was on a no-fly. I was flying all over, still doing conferences and things. And then I had befriended a used car dealer.
I'm surprised TSA didn't stop you at some
No, they
point.
didn't. I wasn't on that. I wasn't on the no-fly at that time.
Interesting.
I was in New York. Well, first off, to back up, I had met a guy who owned a used car lot in Bryan, Texas. And we became friends. I was buying cars from him. And I knew he was chopping up cars in the back. And it was no big deal to me because I was wanted in Alabama. So we became like cool friends. But when I was in New York, the authorities came knocking on his door about the chopped cars. And the first words out of his mouth were, I know this guy you're looking for in Alabama, Kyle Sandler. So, he calls me while I'm in New York to tell me that they have this orange GTR that I've always wanted. Come look at it. And I'm not thinking nothing of it. He's like, dude, you coming or not? I'm like, dude, and now that I look, in retrospect, it's like 15 calls in one day.
Right. Way too much.
I get to his lot and they give me, and I'm walking to the car and the police are like, are you Kyle Sandler? They jump out of the other used vehicles. Oh shit! And I was caught. So because I had run from that day in late 17 till I got out on first step, I was locked up. I didn't get bond or anything.
Nothing. Yeah.
And because of the run, I'm black box too. So anytime I went through transit, even though I was community custody, I was black boxed.
So you got caught. You said 17 is when they officially arrested you.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm gonna backtrack because I have a couple questions here. First, were you like the only Asian kid in that Jewish community that you grew up in?
Absolutely. But my last name's Sandler. It's funny because
Right.
I got a great story about that too. So my family, my mom's great. My dad's passed away a long time ago. I got 4 brothers and sisters. I'm the oldest. And it was one of those things.
Did they adopt them as well?
No.
Or? Okay.
It was one of those things that my mom was one of those women in the 70s that it was a big deal that a lot of women in the 70s thought they couldn't have kids. And then she did, and then bam, just kept popping them out. So I'm the only adopted one. I'm the oldest one. My last name is Sandler, which is like one of the most Jewish names you could possibly get. But yeah, I was the only brown-skinned Jew. And when I got to Montgomery, FPC Montgomery, the Jews, Nevin Shapiro is one of the Jews in Montgomery. And it's a huge collective unit, even though it's in the middle of Alabama. And so, I'm trying to go to service my first Friday there, and they ain't trying to let me in. Like, who the hell does this guy think? Because you probably know this, like a lot of people claim to be Jewish for common fare and for the Passover food. So I guess they thought I was one of those guys. I had to have my mom send him pictures from my bar mitzvah so I could go to the Jewish services at Montgomery. So I get into the Jewish service in Montgomery. It's in this blue room at the chapel. It's separate from the main chapel sanctuary. And there's a whiteboard on there, and there's this number. It's like 3 billion and some change, like written on the whiteboard. And the very first night that I'm admitted, afterwards they sit in BS until recall. And we're sitting there. I'm like, so what's that number? And they're like, well, how much money did you steal? So I was like, well, my actual is about 2.9 million. So they added the 2.9 million to that number, and it's 3 billion something.
Wow.
And they're like, this is the amount of money all the Jewish people at Montgomery stole.
Holy shit.
3 billion and some odd change.
That's pretty
Nevin alone was a $980 million hit.
Holy shit. I didn't know Nevin stole that much money. That's crazy.
He was a $980 million.
I didn't even find out. Funny, I'm sure most people. When I found out about Nevin was the whole that 30 for 30 documentary about. Yeah. Of
course I know. So I mean, Nevin's good. Nevin's one of my best friends. He's the reason I made the segue from Daytona to
Broward County
to Broward County for this thing that we got going on with Beyond the Narrative. But he was running a grocery business. They were doing okay. Something fell off the rails. $980 million later. At the same time, he had legit money, but he was very, very active booster with the University of Miami. Probably the world's most active booster in the world. And they were using his boat and his house for parties. And,
right.
And I mean, whether there was pay for play or not, I'm not 100% sure, but that's what he was accused of. He was accused of paying 30 players and 7 coaches at the University of Miami. So I think it was 11 and 12. They were banned for 2 years of postseason play. It was because of Nevin. But yeah, he did 30 for 30, and there's American Green on him too.
Yeah, that's such a Miami thing. We converted from the cocaine days in the 80s, early 90s to like all the fraud in the 90s and 2000s. That's such. Did you know that? I mean, I think we spoke about this at the beginning of the show. Like, Miami's a fraud capital of the world.
The fraud capital of the world, no doubt. But what's great is there's very little SOs here because we are so anti-SO in Florida.
Yeah, true.
It's like, I think, I don't want to speak out of turn. I believe that Tennessee and Florida have death penalty laws on the books.
Pretty much.
Which, for some, it's an awesome thing to have our kids protected. But, it's not one of those SO friendly states. You don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so that's why your story is interesting. You're an Asian kid who grew up in a Jewish community and committed your crimes in Alabama. It's like,
Oh yeah, and I came out as gay in prison. I mean, I had been since I was in the 7th grade. But,
okay.
And I'm married to somebody that I was in Montgomery with.
Wait, but why'd you choose? You came out as gay in prison?
Well, I mean, I was always gay.
No, I know, but you said it like you came out.
Active. I was with somebody in prison. We're still together now, and we were. It was just well known on the yard.
Interesting moment.
So it was no big deal.
Okay, I was about to say. I was like, man, that's an interesting moment to come out.
Yeah,
in prison. That's cool.
So I mean, basically, like we started liking each other and hanging out all the time, and the rumors started. So I had I was the jailhouse lawyer in Montgomery.
Okay.
I was doing everybody's work, and we were getting a lot of results. And then people started asking, so I decided to have a town hall meeting myself, not like official. So I printed out these flyers for this town hall at the library, an education on a Saturday. It was the 4th Saturday, was a roast beef night, so I knew that everybody was going to go to dinner. So I put these notes up in the unit, all over the TV rooms and shit. Come down at 4 o'clock in the atrium, because in our units there was an atrium. Come to the atrium right before they call chow. And everybody came, and I'm like, look, man, I don't care what y'all think. I'm with Cody now. Your legal work is going to be the same as it always was. And if you have a problem with it, I won't write it. And you can stay in prison. I don't give a fuck. And everybody's like, okay, we can respect that.
Good.
Yeah.
Well,
I've had an interesting life.
Yeah, you have a wild story. It's definitely not common. So, all right. So, a couple other things. At any point throughout all those businesses that you, I mean, there were several of them. You didn't have any other like close calls where you kind of like experimented with and almost broke the law, nothing like that throughout your whole life?
Oh yeah, I've always had a streak of scamming my entire life.
Okay, so let's start. When was the first time you kind of like, got into some shady stuff?
Well, I mean, shady might not be I've done some. I mean, I don't now, but when I was
of course
a kid,
not. But
when I was I had these big things for a kid as a teenager. Up north, there was this grocery store called Hannaford's. I don't know if you'd ever heard of it.
No.
But it was a chain up north, Maryland, New Jersey, all that stuff. They had a triple your money back guarantee on anything made fresh in the store. So I'm like 16, 17 years old. And I started this thing where I'd go to seafood and order 2, cocktail trays of shrimp for big parties. And I'd tell them absolutely no Old Bay, because Old Bay is real big in the shrimp, especially in Maryland. And so, I've got 2 $100 shrimp trays, and I'd go home and I'd take, enough shrimp for me to eat, and I'd sprinkle Old Bay on all the rest of them, making my face look like I broke out in something, go back to Hannaford's and be like, dude, it says right here on the receipt. Remember, this is like 1997 or something, 1995. So there's no computer system or anything like that. They just have the hand receipt.
Yeah.
No Old Bay, dude. And they would give me $600 in cash.
That's
I did
nuts.
this at like 5 or 6 Hannaford.
That's a great scam. Oh my
Right.
God.
So, I mean, other than little stuff like that, I used to, back in the 90s, you could get $200 gift card to Best Buy if you signed up for AOL, and all you needed was a credit card that dollar offed. So I would go and buy, prepaid debit card with like $25 on it, and just go from every Best Buy and just keep dollar offing. So I'd have like $1,000 in gift cards by the end of the day.
That's great. Oh my God.
I mean, all the statute of limitations is up on it. All this stuff is 20 years old.
Yeah, whatever. You were a kid. Who gives a shit,
So, I mean, yeah. And it's all, your brain. Highly successful entrepreneurs and highly successful criminals have the same chemistry in their brain.
Yeah, it's just we're just applying it to the wrong vehicle.
Correct. And now I've finally been able to do it the right way.
Good. Yeah, definitely. All right. So you always had a little bit of a streak of
Right.
the renegadeness in you. So all the way up until 2017, how old are you at that point?
Almost 40. Well, no, 41.
41. Okay. And how long were you on the run?
A year.
A year. Okay. And man, the wife and kids were like, they were cool going on.
Yeah, we pulled our daughter out of school, and we homeschooled her. And she was 8 and thought it was an adventure.
That's pretty wild.
But when I finally got caught, we did tell my then 9-year-old daughter that I was going to prison for lying, and her mom reported that up until she was like 16, she never told another lie. No more white little kid lies, because she wasn't going to go to prison like her dad.
Yeah. That's crazy. So, what was a formal charge that the feds gave you?
It was started out as about 20 counts of wire fraud and securities fraud, and I pled down to 1 of each.
Okay. And combined, what they end up giving you as far as time?
63 months.
63 months.
Yeah.
7 years. No,
5 and some change.
5 and some change. Okay. And then you said you got first step back?
Yeah, I was the 8th person out of the whole BOP on first step. I got called. I was at Forest City by this time because I had got a couple phone shots, Forest City medium, and I got called to the lieutenant's office at 6 o'clock in the morning on Valentine's Day in 22. And the funny thing is, I'll tell you, the story's still out there. This is crazy. At one point, if you saw my bio, I was the campaign manager for John McAfee, and the feds really wanted him. And this is before he killed himself in Barcelona. And they wanted all this information. So finally, he kills himself in Barcelona. And a reporter that we had worked with on stories in USA Today and the Wall Street Journal about what we were doing with McAfee reached out to me by email while I was in prison. I had a jack, so I talked to email, and I emailed him back. I'm like, dude, yeah, whatever you need, I'll talk to you. So I talked to him. He's like, hey, can I interview you about the story, because they're having problems with John McAfee's estate. And I wanted to just get some background and stuff. And so we do this interview, and it comes out on the Market Watch, which is an online thing for the Wall Street Journal. And my quote is there, And he attributes my quote to talking to Kyle Sandler from a cell phone at a federal prison in Arkansas. Like, it says this in Market Watch, from a cell phone at a federal prison in Arkansas. There's one Kyle Sandler and one federal prison in Arkansas. This is February 3rd or 4th, if I believe, in 22.
Fucking reporters.
So
man.
on the 14th of February, I get called to the lieutenant's office at 6:30 in the morning, which I'm not sure where you did your time, but if you get called in low or medium at shift change, you're going to the bucket. So I packed my locker up, locked everything up, told all the guys, hey, make sure you call my family if I don't come back. I get there, and they tell me to sit on the bench. Okay, fine, I'm going to the shoe. I'm ready. I get in there, and the lieutenant's like, are you Sandler? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you got a ride home? I'm like,
A ride
home when? January 21st to 24? He's like, no, you got somebody that can pick you up today. Today?
What?
They're like, yeah, your first step habeas came through.
Wow.
And we have to have you off the yard by 4 o'clock.
That's nuts.
And I'm like, for real? He's like, yeah. I'm like, damn, I thought I was getting a shot. And so I walk back, and now everybody thinks that I was going to get a shot, and I'm walking back because I snitched. And I'm like, dude, I don't care what you think. I'm walking back, and I'm going home. Like, you man, I'm like, I snitched real good because they sent my ass home. And
That's
then, they told me I had filed a habeas for my first step. It was granted. My first step credit kicked in. Back then, I don't know when you got out or if you got on first step, but back then, the first probably 500 guys or so that got let go got all of their first step to the door instead of this halfway house madness they're doing now. Right. So I did 33 on 63. I went home 2 years early.
That's sick. That's awesome.
And so that was my big first step story. I got it was Valentine's Day in 2022.
That's cool, man.
And I thought I was going to get a shot.
That's from thinking you're going to the shoe to going home. That's I think you're the only guy I've met so far that the habeas actually came through. I don't
we've done a bunch of them now.
That's awesome.
But there's something, they've done some craziness in the BOP, like they started to put
like they always
conditional outdates on, so it's making it easier to do habeas.
Oh, sick. Okay. So, question though. How that was all at the camp, right? You never got shipped to like a lower or medium?
That was from Forest City Medium. So
how'd you end up with the medium?
So I was at Montgomery from July 18 to September 21.
Okay.
Caught a phone shot. The guy who fixed the phones told on me. He went to the county jail because they didn't have a shoe there. He went to the county jail, comes back. He went there on a Friday, came back on a Monday, and the next thing I know, SIS is tearing up my spot. And I had the same spot for the same. I had 2 finger phones that were in baggies in my oatmeal, and then I had a Android phone that was
finger
in a
phones,
locker.
man. I wish I would have seen one of those in prison. That would have been cool.
Yeah, I had 2 finger phones in my oatmeal, and so I got locked up, taken to the county jail. They expedited my transfer. Went to Forest City Low. On Christmas Eve of 21, I was having an argument with my now husband on the phone, and I ignored everybody telling me the guard was coming. I remember it clear as day. So I got taken to the shoe, but the shoe was full. And so I was just explaining this to somebody who I was at the medium with. The shoe was full at the low, the shoe was full at the medium. But the captain and the SIS lieutenant at the medium were like, you think you're so big and bad, and you got a phone shot, got another phone shot. We're just going to put you out to the wolves. So I went straight to the yard the next day, at the medium, and that's where I got put back in. I mean, taken out on first step.
That's wild. How long were you at the medium for?
Only from Christmas Eve until Valentine's Day, so 2 months.
So 2 months. Okay. Another interesting question. I haven't had the pleasure of interviewing an Asian guy that went to prison. So what's it like? I know obviously it's very racially segregated. There's like white, there's black,
right.
There's Spanish, the Puerto Rican gangs and the biker gang and all that shit. What's it like for an Asian person, like in the higher level prisons?
So I rode white mostly, and I was able to ride white because my jailhouse
because you
lawyer,
grew up Jewish.
That and my jailhouse lawyer reputation had preceded me.
Okay.
And everybody wanted me to do the work, and they're like, bragging about me when I got there and all this kind of stuff. So when I arrived from camp to Forest City Low, like they had already picked out a bunkie. I came into a locker full of commissary and grays and stuff.
That's dope.
Like, hey, can you take a look at this? I remember the very first day I was there, like, hey, man, I had this happen in court. I'm like, dude, give me like 5 minutes to get settled in.
So that was, I would assume that's pretty much just what happened in the medium that whole 2 months you were there.
everybody
You were
knew
just
me anyway.
working.
Because now it's like, that little gay Hawaiian Asian lawyer guy, everybody knows me. And then when I started doing this, it's like even more people know me.
What's some of the wilder cases you worked on while you were in there? Can you remember any of them, or there were just too many?
There was way too many. I mean, lately, I have a wild one I'm working on right now about some really young Hispanic kids that were part of a group of people that were robbing old people for their crypto. Let's see. I had 2 clemencies granted in 22.
That's
that
sick.
was before they were give me's. This last year that was.
That's awesome. Okay. What were they for?
Just drug dealers.
That's sick.
Yeah, nothing too crazy. Standard run of the mill. I've done a couple compassionate releases that went.
That's sick.
Then I had a compassionate release recently get denied for somebody whose kid is about to pass away.
Did he end up passing away?
Not yet, but it's not going to be good.
It's crazy. Somebody died in front of me in prison.
I had that too.
It's gnarly.
And they don't really give a shit.
They don't. And it makes you realize like how fragile your life is in there.
Yeah.
It sucks.
So everybody goes, medium down, and I went the wrong way.
You went from the
But
camp
then
up.
the craziest part was, when I came back on violation, I still had a variable. So then I went to Butner 2, which is a medium, until I ruffled enough feathers to say, look, man, my first sentence was dead, so was the variable, and then they put me in the low. So I spent another 5 months at Butner 2, and then the rest of the time I did at Butner low.
Those are where
North Carolina.
North Carolina?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that like, I know there's Edgefield, and then what's the other one they got over there?
It's Butner. It's near Durham. It's the medical compound.
Okay. Cool. So
That's where Bernie Madoff was, and R. Kelly.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. I wasn't there with Bernie Madoff. I was there with R. Kelly.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Was he just walking around like everybody else? Really?
Yeah. The funny thing is, like, you get these prison creators. They're like, I don't want to imitate the one pre-creator because then you'll know who I'm talking about. But they're like, R. Kelly's gonna get raped in prison and everybody's gonna beat his ass. That's not how it is at all. The Chicago crowd, the Chicago car is taking good care of R. Kelly. He can walk wherever he wants.
Right.
It's R. Kelly.
Yeah.
Same thing's gonna happen. I firmly
With
don't
Diddy?
believe that Diddy's gonna end up doing real time. I think he's gonna beat it. But if he did, he's in no danger at all.
What makes you think he's gonna beat it?
This is why I'd like to consider myself a professional in the field. So my professional opinion is this, that the original indictment, you have to remember that we're talking about the charges, not the court of public opinion.
Right.
The charges, the indictment is weak. There's no kids in the indictment. And basically what it is he paid a bunch of prostitutes to come party with him. At the end of the day, it's the same thing that Hugh Hefner and all the rappers do.
Right.
So until there's, and then, look at like Dirk for a second. Dirk was locked up. 10 days later, they superseded with 5 more charges that were real big charges, conspiracy to commit murder and all this stuff. It took 5 months for them to supersede Diddy's indictment, and it's just 2 more sex workers. I mean, I'm not trying to minimize whatever happened to these people,
of course.
but it's 2 more prostitutes. It's not, and you hear Justin Bieber, teenagers, teenage boys, Usher, all this. It's not that. You supposedly have 300 victims Tony Busby in Texas is representing. It's none of those. It's just 2 more people that went to his parties. And these are the kind of parties that celebrities throw all the time. So unless they come with something even bigger, I don't think he's actually going to be found guilty in due time. I don't know what he's going to do about all this time he's done now and all the bail he can't get, but I don't believe that that he's going to be found guilty.
So it wasn't a secret that he was having all these parties, right? So why do you think the feds waited so long? If they still have a weak case, like why wait so long to come after him?
That's a good question. I don't know why they waited so long, but they still haven't turned up anything that's substantial.
That'll stick, right?
In the court of public opinion, he's dead.
Right.
But and all this like, oh, this is that, and it's all the media. it's retarded because there's people like, one of the things I wanted to say, and you may be able to know who I'm talking about, but I would never go on the federal prison tips and say I knew anything about how the prison system in Oregon works, because I don't. I don't know how any of the state prison systems work. I've never done state time, only county and fed time.
Right.
But you got one TikToker or one social media guy who's never done a lick of federal prison time and wants to opine about everything. So he ran a post this weekend because there was some stupid blogger that was like, 50 Cent just bought the halfway house that Big Meech is in. That's not true.
That's bullshit.
The halfway house here in Miami is dismissed. Isn't it the one you came through?
Riverside.
It's Riverside?
Yeah, well, there's several. There's one that's Banyan. That's like in Little Haiti. And then there's another one, Little Havana, Riverside.
But
that's
they're both fed halfway houses,
yes.
right? And they're both, who's running them though? Is it Dismiss or Volunteers of America or Salvation Army?
Might be Dismiss.
Yeah, I mean, Dismiss Charities is one of the biggest charities in the country. They ain't selling no halfway house. All of the halfway houses in the federal system are nonprofit, and their contracts that are like 20, 30, 40 years long.
Yeah, some ridiculous amount.
So 50 Cent ain't buying nobody's halfway house that's federal. He could if it was state. The second thing is Meech isn't at the halfway house. Meech is at the house on home confinement. But as you know, if you do home confinement for the feds, for the BOP,
you're assigned to
the halfway house because they're the one that's monitoring it. So there's no foundation to that story. Same social media guy. Luigi Mangione and P. Diddy were in they're locked down.
And they shoot together. Yeah,
they're the prison they're at's on a lockdown for 30 days. Dude, MDC Brooklyn came off the lockdown yesterday. They were on the lockdown for like 22 hours. There ain't no 30 days about it. And when you don't know jack about federal prison, don't talk about it because it makes you look stupid.
Inmate.com, bro. It's just,
right. And that's what thing it is, And then you got another guy. I don't know if you've ever seen him. He's the Prison Wives guy. I don't know his name. But yesterday, he was like, Donald Trump said that he was going to give expungement to anybody who's got a felony that's over 12 years. Donald Trump didn't say no shit like that at all. What he did was he eliminated a database of police officers that have committed crimes. That's the only thing that he did yesterday. It has, and then people, did you hear what Trump's got? Trump's not doing that. No.
Yeah, it's funny how that's how it is in prison, right? It's like high school. You hear all these,
one thing, and 10 minutes later you're hearing
it's
the exact same story.
Yeah, and I get it. It's like there's a lack of information. You're tied off from everybody, so you kind of like that's why these rumors spread like crazy because you're literally segregated and you can't really come up with real.
Right. It's like when I'm doing, on federal prison tips, we do 3 to 5 million views a month on TikTok, and everybody in federal prison on a jack is watching us, but they want me to report this and report that. Hey, did you hear this is what's happening at Montgomery? And so I started getting these calls and texts and DMs about 6 or 7 weeks ago. They got a new warden at Montgomery. He's not giving them commissary. They took the phone away. He body slammed an inmate. And I'm like, that didn't happen at Montgomery. I was at Montgomery for almost 3 years. It was the cush spot, the best spot I've ever been to. So it just keeps coming and keeps coming. So finally I reach out to somebody, a guy who's been there a while, who there's not really shot callers at camp, but if there was, he'd be it. Right. Like, no, dude, everything that dude said was true. I'm like, okay, cool. So let me figure out what I'm doing. In the meantime, then I got a DM from a CO that, spoke to me on a condition of anonymity from Montgomery's like, yeah, everything they're saying is true. So I ran with it. And, this warden just came from the MDC in Brooklyn, and he's treating it like it's USP Montgomery. And so, I dropped this video 2 weeks ago on Friday, and by the day after President's Day, I'm getting calls from the BOP like, hey, do you think this is real? Yeah,
look at that.
It is real.
The BOP's calling you.
They call me a lot. Every time I run a inmate video, like they had a rat in the bathroom at School Kill, FPC School Kill, and so somebody videotaped it, and he's like, man, you got to see this. Like, I want to run it, but I need everybody on the unit to be in agreement that it's okay, because if I run it, you guys are going to get locked down. Of
course, yeah.
So I ran it, and they got locked down. And but the SIS from School Kill calls up, and it's like, yeah, can you tell me where I got the video from somebody named John Smith on Instagram. I mean, that's really what it is, because they all use fake names.
Of course.
So I don't know, but I wouldn't tell anyway, because I'm still one of them.
Of course.
And I had this girl, 2 girls, Haley and Urseli, at Aliceville, they just railed on what was going on there. And I guess it's really bad for some of those girls. And they did a 60-minute special on it, made it look like it was the best place in the world. And I told them, and I told their family members, look, if I run this, they're going to the shoe. And then the girl called me, or DM me. She's like, no, this is Haley, and I want to go to the shoe. I want it to be exposed. Okay, let's do it. And that video got 20,000 views, and everybody from the BOP's calling. You don't need me to tell you who it is. She's right there on the video.
Right, exactly.
How'd you get it? Obviously, she's got a cell phone.
You can download it from the internet. I mean, how the fuck do you think I got it?
Right.
Yeah, I think it's cool. It's almost like you're like this prison Avenger on the outside trying to.
I'm trying to keep it. I'm trying to walk a thin line because I would love to
do things within reason, of course. Yeah.
I would love to help make it better. There's one of the biggest problems that they're having in federal prison is the lack of staff, and the lack of staff makes it so we have to stay on lockdowns longer, and we can't get access to programming. And so the answer to lack of staff is either lower the number of inmates or increase the number of staff. So something's got to be done. Something's got to happen.
Right.
But whatever I can do, if I can supply the BOP with ideas that are going to help the inmate population, I'm going to do it.
100%.
And then if I have to shed some light on something because everybody thinks the BOP is a shiny, happy place, and I'm going to do that too.
What was that? Did that start happening like as soon as you got out, or tell me how? I want to talk a little bit about that transition from doing your time, getting out
to right now. So when I first got out back in 22, I wanted to do prison consulting. That's what I wanted to do, and jailhouse lawyering from the street. I asked my probation officer. She said I could start the business, but she was really ambivalent about it. She was being like shitty, and she was like, well, for you to start the business, Kyle, I'm going to need you to get a tax ID, register with the state of Alabama.
Company, all that shit, yeah.
You need to have office space. You need to have a landline. You need to have a fax machine, all this kind of crap. She made me this laundry list of shit. And I'm in my mind, I know in her mind that she was that this was going to take a month, or I was going to be defeated and not do it. I called her from the next day from the office with the fax machine plugged in and ready to go. So she's like, okay, you can do it. So I started it, and then, I ended up violating by not listening to her and doing things that she said I couldn't do. And she told me that I had to stop the business, and I didn't stop it, so she locked me up. When I came back out, I didn't want to touch this with a 10-foot pole. I wanted to go back to work.
How long did they throw you back for after you
24 months, but I only did 15 on first step.
Fuck. All right.
So I went back for 15 months, and when I got out, I was at the halfway house for 30 days. I was aggressively applying for jobs. I got a little baby job, at the pizza place by the halfway house in Alabama, but I knew I was leaving Alabama the minute I got out of the halfway house because I'm off paper. I was off paper. I killed my paper on the violation.
Right.
So the grand total is I applied for 367 jobs, and I didn't land one.
Wow.
Not one.
Talking about rejection. Fuck.
I went on several interviews, but it was the felony. If the felony got in the way, or I was overqualified. So, on April 25th, 2024, which was the day that I got out of the halfway house, I dropped one video. It was just like some video where I stole some crap from T.I. and then remixed it, and I was out of prison, put my prison number up and shit, and it got like 20,000 views.
Wow.
And I was off to the races.
That's awesome.
And I hadn't looked back. And today, we've helped thousands with the content, but we've got about 200 clients between post-conviction and prison consulting, and I've got 3 full-timers and 2 part-timers.
That's sick.
So
I love how this space has allowed us to have.
What else are we gonna do?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, one, we can't. Most people don't want to fucking hire us anyway.
Right.
But it's given us a space to where we can tell our stories, we can connect, and we can really thrive. It's cool, and we do it in front of the world, to show people listen, we're not going nowhere. And last time, in case you forgot, we went to jail because we're hustlers.
Exactly. That's the thing. And then this has given me the opportunity to apply the skill. All my lifelong friends are like, Kyle, you could always do something like this. You got to keep it straight. And then, to be honest with you, I've got 3 lifelong close friends that are micromanaging me to make sure that I keep this straight. I got a buddy of mine who grew up to be an accountant. That's in my bank account every day. what's that? What's this? Do this, do that. And it was kind of cool because we were doing my taxes for the end of the year for federal prison tips. And I was talking to my accountant who works for one of my friends from high school works for a major firm. And I turned in all my receipts and he's like, what about all your gear? What about all your Nike gear and all that stuff? I'm like, well, I can't claim that. It's just clothes. He's like, yeah, you can. You do those videos every day. Like, and almost 2,000 videos. Of course, I guess I can claim my wardrobe, and it's legit. So, yeah, got that tax deductible business expense. I mean, I'm not going crazy like I was before, but now it's like I'm over compensating when I can be taking advantage of some stuff like that. So, yeah, it's good to help people, and we're at a point now with. There's like 10 legitimate federal prison consultants in the country, consultancies, but us included. But out of all 10 of us, I am by far the leader on social. The other guys don't even compare. So our phone rings off the hook.
I bet.
From the time the phone goes on at 10, we work, our business hours, our posted business hours are 10 to 10 Monday through Friday. I do that so that we can be up for the East Coast inmates and the West Coast inmates.
Right. And
I'm not at a point where we need to take jobs just to pay the rent. So I can turn stuff down.
Right.
And if it's post-conviction, I'll turn it down if we can't get it done. If I know we can't get it done, if there's no chance in hell, if you're just grabbing at straws, you're just grabbing at straws.
Right.
Well, such and such is just trying to get your money. If you want to give them your money, you're going to call me back in a year and say nothing happened. So I don't have to take the job just to pay the rent, which is great. Actually, TikTok pays the rent, to tell you the truth. Everything else is just gravy and paying for the business. But it wasn't an easy road, and we're here. We did our time.
We're fucking here, man.
And the punishment is the time. And a lot of people don't get that. And the we're here thing that you're saying is on my videos. You probably don't get them because you don't do the same kind of content as me, but I know it goes on to the guys that are doing war stories. I get a lot of people out of the right side of their mouth like, oh, maybe you shouldn't do anything to go to prison. And so I always come back and I'm like, at federalprisontips.com or at Federal Prison Tips on social, that ship has sailed, brother. They're coming to me because it's too late.
100%.
But what I'm doing is, what I needed when I was going through county jail, because you're at the county jail, you're talking to 10 different people, you're getting 10 different stories.
Yep.
How much money can I bring? What can I wear when I'm going to the federal prison? What's the day really going to be like? How do I get something done? Am I really going to get beat up? I mean, because look at me, I thought I was going to get my ass kicked the first day. But so what I was saying first about being able to turn jobs down, it's great to be making all this money. For me, though, the two best things for me are when I get an email or a call from the wall and the inmate's like, you know what, you made this so much easier for me. That makes me feel really good. And the best thing in the world is when we're doing post-conviction work and I can call a loved one and say, look, you're whoever's coming home. We were on TikTok live last night, and I tell people like 90% of our customers come from TikTok. So they know. From 8 to 9 Eastern, I'm on TikTok Live. Why are you calling my phone when I'm on TikTok Live? So I'm on TikTok on this phone, and this phone rings. And so I answered it on speaker on TikTok Live with 150 people in the room. And the guy, his name is Nick Smith out of Mississippi. He's like, dude, I'm home.
That's awesome, man.
You're not supposed to be home for 2 years. What? He's like, I won my motion. I'm home. I said, there it is. There's the evidence of our work. And, we stole a bunch more stuff last night just by this guy calling on the show.
That must be so fulfilling, man.
It is, to be able to tell somebody they're coming home early. And we're not magicians. I don't guarantee legal work. You can't, because you're in court. Even if you have a rock solid case, the judge could have a bad day and you're screwed.
Right.
And I'm not want to ever guarantee outcomes. I can tell you what the law is, what the law says, and I'm not a lawyer, so I can't practice. I can't go into court for you.
Right.
But we write pro se motions for people, or help them write pro se motions, and we take it all the way through. So when the government comes and beats you down, we're ready to help you make a reply, go back to court, and hopefully sway the judge. And we've been real fortunate in the Southern District of Mississippi because Carlton Reeves, who's the chief of the Sentencing Commission, is the judge down there, and he ain't taking no shit from the BOP. They've had a lot of what we're winning right now is habeas to get your FSA credit. And the BOP has had 6 years to get the FSA right.
Yeah, and
6 years. We go to jail. The most reprieve we're going to get is a law get passed in September, and it won't go in effect until January. That's it. That's the only month we're going to get. In January, we're hit. We are now 6 years into it. We are 6 Januaries later, and they still don't do first step right.
It's wild. I mean, I remember leaving in May of 2023, and it's been 2 years. I haven't gotten none of my step first. It's wild. It's wild. I mean, it really doesn't make any sense. And will they ever get their act straight? Who knows?
I think so. I think we're gonna have a really good director this time.
Good. I hope so, man. Kyle, this has been super dope. We'll do a part 2 sometime for sure.
For sure. I mean, I'm right down the road.
Yeah, for sure. I gotta come up. Yeah, so let me know.
We want to have you on our show too.
I'd love to, man. That's awesome. Yeah, so let me know when to come up, and you got to get me one of these T-shirts, or at least show me where to buy it, man.
Oh, definitely. I'll send you a link. I got it at the TikTok shop, straight out of prison.
Straight out of prison. I love it. So, Kyle, usually I wrap up asking 4 questions.
Okay.
So, first question is, I mean, I know the answer, but what's next for you?
Is to keep growing federal prison tips.
Yeah, 100%.
And we
Do you have a long-term vision now that you kind of like have a lot of traction and you've built a business? Do you have kind of like a 5-10 year plan, something like that?
We want to be the people call when they're going to go to federal prison. One of my best friends is going to be coming out of Butner in September, who is actually a JD, and he's going to join us. So then we'll have that power too.
That's cool.
So I mean, that's where I see just keep doing the same thing in a much grander scale.
How do you want to be remembered?
As the guy that got you out of federal prison.
I love that. That's a T-shirt. I'm the guy that got you out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I'll tell you this. On October 6th, I did a video. I had some inside information that Biden was going to pardon everybody that was still out on CARES Act. Nobody believed me. Oh, Biden's never going to do that. I was like, look, here's the deal. $450. I'll write your clemency pack, but it has to be in to get it. You know, we made a boatload of money on that. I mean, the car that I drove in here was paid for by clemency.
Nice.
But
it's a nice car. I can attest.
It's not like a Bentley or nothing, just a Honda, a Honda Prologue. We ended up between both of Biden's clemencies and the J6ers that we did, we've gotten 230 people clemency.
Wow, it's an insane amount of people.
Yeah.
How many J6ers did you do?
10.
That's cool. How many were there total?
Like 500 or something.
Really? Damn, that's a lot. I didn't know there were many people. That's cool. I've been DMing Enrique Tario.
Cool.
Trying to get him.
Proud Boys.
Get him
to Proud Boys. He should come down here.
That'd be cool.
Everybody's trying to get him, though.
Yeah, of course.
We're trying to get Casey Anthony on our show.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a rough one.
You take it. I mean, it's views.
I get it. Do you believe in redemption?
Absolutely. I'm the preacher of redemption. That's what I want to drive home. I mean, I'm really sorry about the crime that I committed in Opelika and the friends that I took advantage of, and I'm paying restitution, trying to make it right, and all that kind of stuff. But to be able to turn my prison experience into what's happening now is my own redemption story.
This has got to be one of the biggest 180s I've seen thus far. Helping others get them. I mean, it's a huge blessing to help people get out of prison.
I mean, we're not miracle workers, and I don't. It's few and far between because it's tough. Court is a tough thing, but even the prison consulting side to help somebody mentally prepare, and then on the prison consulting side, we do mitigation. So they'll come in thinking that they're 27, 31 on the sentencing table, and we'll get them sentenced at an 18 or a 19, working with their lawyer, and that just shaved years off their life.
Right. Do you believe you've redeemed yourself?
I still got a ways to go, but I'm working on it.
Cool. Well, Kyle, that's all nice. I got for you, brother. How can people connect with you?
Federal Prison Tips everywhere.
Instagram, TikTok, YouTube.
Instagram, TikTok. We even got all those other services when they were going to take TikTok away. So like that red, I've got that. We've got like Blue Sky or whatever it is. All of them. We're on everything. Oh wait, on this one app. Hold on, I forget the one. The Chinese one that everyone went to when TikTok was supposed to go down.
Yeah.
We are just Federal Prison because tips wouldn't fit. Red Note.
Yeah.
You can find us at Federal Prison on Red Note.
That's awesome. Thank you for coming through, man.
No
Appreciate
problem at
you.
all, man. This was great.
Definitely. Alrighty, guys. That was another episode of Honor Among Thieves. Special guest Kyle Sandler. Your host, as always, Nelson Rodriguez Jr. Push it to the limit. The world is yours. If you're not chasing a dream, life is meaningless, guys. Catch you on the next one. Say goodnight to the bad guy.
So say goodnight to the bad guy.
You looking at the bad guy, bad guy. This the last time that you ever see a bad guy like me. You don't have the guts to be who you wanna be.